Howdy, how's it going? Welcome back, or howdy if you're new. I'm going to show you how to get Modern Warfare 3 dialed in perfectly on your ROG Ally. I'm going to show you how to get better accuracy, better FPS, and better overall control of your handheld while you're playing these games, so you'll even get better temperatures. And if you like videos like this, please subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff, and much love to the channel OGs. You guys are the GOAT. Thank you so much. So let's look and dive into what I run and what I do. So the first piece of advice I have for you is to dial in your sticks. You're going to open up Armory Crate, click on the settings menu. First of all, make sure you're in gamepad mode. Once you're in gamepad mode, you'll go over here to calibration. Let's start with the left stick. So the first thing you're going to want to do, revert to default settings. This will not erase your ally. This won't change any other settings. It's only going to erase the calibration settings. You'll hit OK. You'll hit A for calibrate. You'll push this over as far right as you can and hold. Make sure it's perfectly straight. Same with the bottom. Same for the left. Same with the top. And don't worry if it doesn't go all the way. Just try your best to get it pushed up there. Even factory, sometimes these things do that. It's just something you have to kind of work around. So now we're going to rotate it all the way around in a couple circles, forcing it all the way on that outer edge. This part can be tough sometimes. It really just depends on your sticks and how well they're seated in there. Sometimes if you've replaced the joystick caps or the joysticks, or you've tinkered around with them, you might have to readjust and kind of position them, but we're going to try it on this one even though I've tinkered around with these quite a bit. There we go. Now we have 3 perfect circles. And by the way, if you haven't seen the video on these joystick caps, these are PS5 thumbstick caps. I've done a dedicated video on these, and yes, there are 2 separate colors. This is clear purple, and this is like a translucent clear. And then if you're wondering about this is the Xbox Elite Series D-pad. It is magnetic. The little ring doesn't stay on very well, but you can use that or the circle or whatever you want. There will be a dedicated video for this, but the steps for the OG Ally are up. They're about the same. If you're not really comfortable with removing motherboards, you probably shouldn't try it. It's kind of risky. Okay, so now that that's calibrated, do it twice, maybe even 3 times. 3rd time's a charm. A lot of times, recalibrating it a couple of times will get you even higher accuracy. I'm not going to do that. I've already gone through that a couple of times, so we'll skip that for time's sake. Now you'll move on to the right stick and do the same thing for that. Now you'll go calibrate triggers. Even though you may think they're perfect, still, I would advise doing it, and here's how you do that. Y, revert to default settings. Always when you need to calibrate, revert. Hit calibrate, keep the ally stable. Now you press and hold the trigger. Don't force this one. You just want to rest it down there at the end. You'll hit done, and now you're good to go. This one you don't have to do multiple times. Might help, might not. Now you move on to the right trigger, and that's it. You don't have to mess with the gyro. That's completely fine. I'm going to show you what performance settings I run. This is the sweet spot for both FPS and temperatures, and just the best overall battery life. So what I do is, first of all, go over here and we're going to configure this in manual mode. And you can see 22, 26, and 26. This is the average wattage that it will try to aim for, and it'll boost up to 26 or 26 watts on these 2 different power levels right here. So fan curve wise, I would highly advise setting these, but you can do these to your taste if you like less or more fan noise or higher or lower temps. You don't have to have this exactly like that, but it would help to kind of mimic this in the best chart you can. And there's the bottom fan as well right there. So if you want to pause that and try these fan curves, I think you'll have a better time. Once you have all of this set, you're going to hit apply, and that apply will only apply to the battery settings. If it's plugged in, you'll need to do one for plugged in as well. Once you have these set up, you will be able to reuse these every single time that you go into these modes, and it just will work. So I always will run my manual modes, whether I'm plugged in or whether I'm on battery. Just makes things easier for me. For GPU settings, everything over here is how you see it. Fluid motion frames do not use on first-person shooters. It is just not worth it. Anti-lag and boost are the only features that you need to mess with. Eco assist, the first 2 are on and the other 2 are off. I keep CPU boost off. It's not really needed. It's just going to add more heat into your device. I don't think it's really worth it. So now once you have that set up, I'm going to show you how to get into Modern Warfare, and we'll set up the settings inside of there as well. All right, so make sure that your Call of Duty is up to date. I had a massive update just now to go through. So when you launch it, of course, you'll hit play. Also, make sure that you are in gamepad mode before you ever launch the game. If you are in automatic mode or desktop mode, there is a high likelihood that you will not be able to have any kind of controls, and you're just going to have a bad time in general. Alright, so once you're in the game, you'll be at this menu right here. Notice at the top left-hand corner whether it says installing shaders or not. If it says installing shaders, halt what you're doing, go ahead and let it finish. Sure, you can probably get into a match, but it's probably going to be an abysmal time. Wait until it's done. Your benchmarks will be affected if you do not let the shaders fully install. If it hangs at 100%, let it. Sometimes it takes a while. Make sure it's not going to go into sleep mode. Make sure that you're plugged in or whatever. And also don't unplug and plug up. Really, if you are in a match at the menu, it's probably safe, but while you're in a game, don't change the power mode. Don't change to powered versus unpowered. That might get you a ban. If you don't believe me, just go look on Reddit. It's happened to me multiple times. It's happened to others. These are just the things that I'm cautious about, and I avoid them specifically. And hey, I haven't been banned in a while, so at least there's that. So you go into your settings menu, you go all the way over here to settings, and we're going to dial in everything. Okay, so the first, let's just go to graphics. Full screen exclusive. We have our refresh rate set at 120. Down here we have all of this set, as you see. Eco mode, I keep changing it back to custom, but it just changes back on itself already. VSync gameplay off, VSync menus 100%. Custom frame rate limit, this I do recommend setting at 120. In-game frame caps are great. Using the AMD frame cap is not as good. It has a little bit higher latency, but this right here is just good because there's just no point in wasting frames. If you want to dial it up, that's fine. If you want to dial it down, that's fine too. This is just where I have mine set at. So now that I've shown you the custom frame rate cap, everything else is pretty much as you see here. Let's go to the next tab, which is quality. And I'm using FSR 1.0. Sure, you can use FSR 3.0, whichever looks better to you. I just prefer 1.0. And then I have the preset at quality. VRAM scale set to 90. You can dial this down or up if you want. Since it's an Ally X, there's plenty of VRAM. And these settings will work on the Ally OG as well, but you might have to kind of tinker with things a little bit if you're started to run low on VRAM. So variable rate shading, leave that off. Texture resolution normal, texture filter normal, depth of field off, quality level at normal. We have particle resolution at low, bullet impacts on, but persistent effects off. Shader quality, medium. On the OG Ally, I would recommend low. If you're playing on any other handheld that doesn't have 8 gigs of VRAM, probably leave it on low, but you can tinker around with that as well. On-demand texture streaming set to minimal. On texture streaming quality, normal. Shadow quality, low. Screen space, shadows off. Ambient occlusion off. Screen space reflections off, static reflection quality low, tessellation off, volumetric quality low, deferred physics quality off, weather grid volumes off. And the reason I do that is a lot of these will really tie up the GPU. They are really bad for mobile gaming and handhelds in general, so leave that off. Water quality off. Who cares what the water looks like? This is a first-person shooter. We're not there to stare at the water. Under view, I have my field of view set at 95. You might want to try 90 first before you dial it up 95. It's just personal preference. And then for ADS field of view, I have affected, weapon field of view default, third person at 80. And then down here, I've got motion blur off and weapon motion blur off as well. Film grain 0. Now change these from where it says first person camera movement and third person camera movement, set those at 50%. And the rest of these are pretty much default. Make sure inverted flashbang is off. That's really annoying. So now you'll go back to interface. Interface is something that's going to help you out a good bit, hopefully. You can go down here to color customizations. You'll hit X or A, and you'll change this to custom. and you'll come down here and you'll change this to filter 2, and you can also do filter 3 if you like, but filter 2 is just the best. Change that to interface, change the color intensity to 75, and the other one set to 100. Now you can also get the FPS counter going by going to telemetry, hit X, go here and enable these right here that I have, and that'll show the GPU temperature, it'll show if you're getting packet loss, it'll show server latency and your FPS counter. And you can also do VRAM usage as well, and if you want to do network in-game alerts or anything like that, you can definitely enable a lot of stuff in there. So that's the tips for that. Now when it comes to audio, I don't really care about the music, so I'll show you what I do for that. I go here and I turn down music volume, cinematic volume, and war tracks volume all the way down, because I would much rather focus on the game rather than the music, and I'll even play my own music in the background using Spotify or something like that. It just makes things a little bit more enjoyable for me. Now for controller settings, probably why you're here, let's show you the controller settings. Make sure this is set on controller, of course, you're not a dummy. All of these just set how you like them. Vibration, this is key. This is really key. I recommend turning it off, but at the most set it at 15%. This will actually affect accuracy. Some people don't believe it, but the pros seem to agree, and a lot of the pros I know, they all turn vibration completely off. So on dead zone inputs, this is where things get a little controversial, and it'll just get a little bit more controversial as we go. Left dead stick minimum, I would not run anything lower than like 8, but your mileage may vary with your sticks. For me, I'm going to set them on about between 10 and 12. The left stick minimum and the left stick maximum, set those at 99. For the left and right trigger, set them at 10 or 11, and that will be pretty key right there. Now we'll go over to aiming. Now aiming is, like I said, where it gets a little bit more controversial. Oh, and we'll have a bonus tip here in a second as well for these joysticks. So we have horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity. I have mine set at 4.4. On controllers, I run 5.5 or 6.6, but like I said, your mileage may vary. I think this is going to feel good for most people. And then I have aim down sight sensitivity multiplier set to 0.85, and going down a little bit further, set at 1. The response curve is set to standard, and everything else is pretty much stock. But if you see something that I don't have, or something that you don't have that I have, definitely change it. Aim assist type, this is precision for me. I used to run Black Ops, but things have changed a little bit in the game since the last couple of updates, and I've found that precision just works for me a little bit better. But I would highly suggest turning it on to Black Ops or precision. Either way, it's going to help you out. Now, the rest of these, I don't think you're going to have to mess with at all. Automatic sprint, I have off, and sprint tactical behavior toggle, auto forward off, tactical sprint behavior double tap, and you can see the rest of these settings here if you want to try to copy these down. Most of these aren't going to matter a ton, and most of these I didn't really change. Probably leave these at default. If you haven't messed with them before, won't make too big of a difference. Okay, so now that I've shown you all of the tips within the game, let's go ahead and talk about a bonus tip. All right, so we're gonna bring up Armory Crate right here, and we're gonna go over to control mode. We're gonna hit configure. We're gonna hit configure again on gamepad mode. Gonna go to left stick, and then over here, make sure that your curve is set like this. It just makes it a little bit easier. You can set a curve if you like and change this around, but I like that more linear response curve. Dead zones. This is another controversial hot take. If you have run gamepad tester before and you notice that there's any wobble on 0 or kind of strays one way or the other on 0, and you've already calibrated multiple times, add a little dead zone if you have to. It's no big deal. You can add up to like 4 or 5% even. You can do it a little bit better by dragging it sometimes, but I'm going to leave mine at 0 because I don't have any dead zone issues. If you have dead zone issues, definitely mess with that. Sometimes your outer threshold is a little bit too wide and you might need to dial that back a little bit to get a full perfect circle. So if you're having issues getting a full perfect circle, maybe try bringing that threshold back in. If you're having problems calibrating, make sure you come in here and check all of these as well. Sometimes you have to dial that threshold back a little bit to get a clean calibration. Anti-dead zone, it's one of the things I don't mess with, but you might need to mess with it if you've added a lot of dead zone. So definitely check that out. For triggers, one of the things you can do is limit the travel. So if you want hair triggers and you want that left or right trigger to be really short, you can kind of tighten up that throw a little bit here. You can change your vibration settings here. I've got it actually defaulted to 50% for all games just because I don't really care for vibration much. So that's something that you can do. All right, so basically, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's really not a lot else that you'll need to dial in. I've shown you how to do the power settings. I've shown you how to do everything else. One other bonus tip as well is you can run this at 900p if you want, and that'll give you a little bit more FPS, but in game I get between 100 and 120 FPS and it runs buttery smooth. All of my controls feel epic. I don't have any issues at all, but don't take my word for it. Try it. See where the sweet spot is. See what feels good to you. Tweak the settings a little bit if you like, but I hope this helps, and until the next one, I hope you have a good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Oh, and stay tuned for the Zephyrus G16 review that I have coming out soon. This thing is a freaking beast. It is a Call of Duty monster. We're going to dive into that thing very, very soon. All right, have a good one.